Bonjour mes amis, c'est moi, Wulf, et aujourd'hui je suis à Jamestown, en Virginie, pour un événement qui est vraiment splendide, qui s'appelle Military Through the Ages. I hope you enjoy. Ce week-end, je représente un soldat français au début de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale avec le 92e Régiment d'infanterie. My father is joining me this weekend in the guise of a 1940s reporter to help me document the event. In the first video in this series, I have visited with the various Cold Steel groups, living historians portraying the military during the time in history when edged weapons were used. In this second video, I visit the earliest units who relied primarily on gunpowder weapons, the early Black Powder groups. The Jamestown Settlement is such an amazing place to hold this historic military timeline. The museum even feels its own authentic recreation of Lord Delawares' Guard. The colony's secretary, William Strachey, described these soldiers in 1610. Every Sunday, when the Lord Governor and Captains General goeth to church, he is accompanied with all the gentlemen, and with a guard of halberdiers in his lordship's livery, fair red cloaks to the number of 50, both on each side and behind him. William Strachey. At the Jamestown Settlement, there is the fascinating Paspahe village, and also an amazing reconstruction of the James Fort. Oh, but look, here's another group of soldiers who is very much at home in this time period of exploration of the New World. It's the new Plymouth Guard. James Fort is doubling as a Patuxet trading post at the head of Buzzards Bay on Cape Cod. The militia has gathered here to prepare militarily for the Pequot War. They are waiting for a ship to convey them to Saybrook, Connecticut. They are armed with matchlock muskets and other firearms of the period.
Good morning. My name is Stan Wallen, and I am the captain of New Plymouth Guard. New Plymouth Guard is a reenactor group that models the militia of colonial Plymouth colony, circa 1621 through 1646. We are a group of people that travel here, especially to Jamestown Settlement to participate in military through the ages. One of our members is a master tailor, and he's had an experiment with a buff coat worn during the time frame withstand an arrow from a Native American bow, either copper tip or stone. That bounced off.
Yep, that absolutely bounced off. We're actually doing a bit of experimental archaeology here. We're actually testing out buff leather, which was worn as an armor in buff coats against Native American projectile points. Captain John Underhill, who was a captain who fought in the Pequot War, wrote an account about being saved by his buff coat after he was shot in the left hip and survived.
Captain Mason and myself entered into the wigwams. He was shot and received many arrows against his headpiece. God preserved him from any wounds. Myself received a shot in the left hip through a sufficient buff coat that if I had not been supplied with such a garment, the arrow would have passed through me. Captain John Underhill.
So we're testing this out, and so far, actually, the buff leather has held up just fine. So,
after two effectively point-blank shots.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing experience to get to witness this experimental archaeology, which really brought the history of Plymouth Colony to life. Here is the contact information for the New Plymouth Guard. Seeing the New Plymouth Guard reminds me that it's been ages since I've sailed into Plymouth myself. Land ho! Of course I visited at Thanksgiving, and it was rather chilly. If you've never been to Plymouth, I urge you to go because there's lots to see and do there. I even marched in America's hometown Thanksgiving parade. I played fife with the fabulous American Originals Fife and Drum Corps. And of course did a little reporting about the event. Talking with the new Plymouth Guard has inspired me to visit once again Plymouth Plantation and stride the decks of the Mayflower too as well. I'll have to plan that soon. Next up in the military timeline are the courageous Winged Hussars of Sobieski's Vanguard. These brave Polish cavalrymen were under the command of Jan III Sobieski, King of Poland and Grand Duke of Lithuania. Sobieski's Winged Hussars have perhaps the most awe-inspiring battle attire in history, with these huge hawk-like wings.
From to 1683 in the Battle of Vienna. This is our Polish Winged Hussar, so named for his massive wing on the background, getting ready to charge down at the Turks and lift the siege of Vienna. Against massive odds, they will succeed, and Europe will live on.
In my first video on the military timeline, I discussed the first siege of Vienna in 1529, but in 1683 the Ottoman Turks would once again invade Europe and lay siege to the city. But after 2 months, the situation for the defenders had become desperate, and a miracle was needed. This miracle did indeed occur when a relief force, including 18,000 Poles, arrived. Sobieski led the charge, considered to be the largest cavalry charge in history. The Winged Hussars charged downhill, gaining powerful momentum, and smashed into the Ottoman flank. The Ottoman lines broke, and the Winged Hussars rode on to capture the enemy camp. That's an especially impressive suit of chainmail for a Winged Hussar to wear, and I also like the icon of Our Lady of Perpetual Help on the front. You'd have to admit that seeing these incredible winged warriors galloping down upon you like avenging angels would put great fear in any soldier's heart. For the crucial role he and his Winged Hussars played in the victory, Sobieski is hailed as the savior of Vienna and Western European civilization. Here is contact information for Sobieski's Vanguard. Avast there, lads! What do we have here? This next group looks like they're getting ready to head out to sea. It's the crew of the Retribution.
This is the crew of the Retribution, which is a privateer vessel or a private ship of war during the War of Spanish Succession, also known as the Queen Anne's War, between 1702 and 1713. Being a privateer, our job is not to fight naval battles, but to disrupt the commerce of our enemies. So we are going to cruise the cargo lanes, shipping lanes of our enemies, and capture as many of their cargo vessels as possible, thus depriving that cargo of our enemy and taking it on to our own.
Queen Anne's War was the North American theater of the War of Spanish Succession. This was the second of 4 conflicts where colonial powers vied for territory in the New World. As its name suggests, the war took place during the rule of Queen Anne of England. A famous individual who was believed to have been a privateer in Queen Anne's War was Edward Teach. You know him better by another name because after the war he became Blackbeard the Pirate. He captured a French ship named La Concorde and renamed her Queen Anne's Revenge. Well, making the career switch from privateer to pirate is not a big change. It just depends on which side of the law one is operating. By the way, I was very curious if the crew actually gets aboard ship and heads out on the water. I found out that they have indeed done living history aboard several ships in the region. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. They said that one of their priorities is teaching their children and grandchildren how important and fun history is. The other thing I would notice about the crew is that they get along very well and enjoy each other's company. Oh, I'm sure that sometimes disputes break out among the crew, but they settle their differences and get back together. Well, it's about time for me to ship out and sail on to the next encampment, but here's contact information for crew of the Retribution. Oh, it's the Appin Regiment of Jacobite Highlanders. The Stuarts of Appin raised a clan regiment to join Bonnie Prince Charlie in his attempt to put the Stuarts back on the British throne in the Jacobite Rising.
Hi, my name is Philip Cromwell. I'm with the Appin Historical Society, and we represent the Appin Regiment, which is a small clan regiment from the northwest of Scotland in the Jacobite Rebellion of 1745.
For 9 months, the Jacobite forces routed the English and marched to within 80 miles of London before turning back. The Jacobites finally met their defeat at the Battle of Culloden.
Behind me you can see a typical Highland encampment during that military campaign, such as the encampment that the Highlanders made outside of the city of Edinburgh after its capture in the fall of 1745.
The capture of Edinburgh was one of the great Jacobite victories.
There are women and camp followers and children with the Jacobite army. The army is resting, refitting, resupplying, and shortly will head south into England in its attempt to capture the city of London and restore the Stuart.
By the way, I see the Appin Regiment every August at the Virginia Scottish Games in the Plains, Virginia. Here I am coordinating with them to do my own World War I Scottish Living History display in a tent near to them next August. One of my favorite bagpipe tunes is All the Blue Bonnets Are Over the Border, which refers to the Jacobite Rising. Here's contact information for the Appin Regiment. The last of the early black powder groups is Crockett's Western Battalion from the amazing Frontier Culture Museum of Virginia. This museum is a big open-air living history attraction located in Stanton, Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. Several frontier cultures are represented there, with many living historians outfitted in period clothing. I urge you to check out the museum's website and plan a visit. Crockett's Western Battalion is the museum's portrayal of a unit on Virginia's frontier during the American Revolution. My video of chatting with their group was not usable, but the museum was kind enough to allow me to use some of their video describing Crockett's Western Battalion.
So the troops that y'all may have seen previously sort of moseying around here are all representing Crockett's Western Battalion. This is our, and when I say our, I mean the Frontier Culture Museum's contribution and representation for our nation's impending semi-quincentennial or 250th anniversary. There was a question that we began asking ourselves about 4 to 5 years ago here at the museum, which was, how do we explore how the frontier influenced the American Revolution and how it was influenced by the American Revolution?
I was really impressed by their authentic uniforms and their crisp military drill. That's some excellent drumming as they march through the World War II area and into the Jamestown fort. Well done, lads. It's time to head back to camp.
We could potentially march down and march back or something. Yeah, that'd be nice. I just want to practice first.
Here's the contact information for Crockett's Western Battalion at the Frontier Culture Museum of Virginia. In my next video, I will visit the groups portraying the Napoleonic Wars and the War of 1812.